I know some of you are thinking about being group leaders here at Journey. At the same time, I also love that there's some of you here that are in this room that you're like, hey, we're not group leaders. We don't know if we want to be group leaders, but yet we're leading groups in our workplace or in other areas of life, or maybe you're leading a group in your neighborhood that's not necessarily a Journey group. But yet at the same time, I'm excited that we are here and we get the chance to hear from Coach O. The theme is developing your bench, how to empower others to help lead within your group. And the reason why this came was for two reasons. One is because I want to fully help you guys out so that when you are leading a group, you hopefully feel that leading that group is not all on your plate. But how can you as group leaders begin to delegate and to begin to shift some things, some tasks, whether it's a little task or a big task, so that it's not all on your plate. But the second reason why is that I also believe that some of our best future Journey group leaders are sitting in groups that are currently happening. And they might have the itch that God is wanting them to lead a group, or they might not know that it's happening, but yet God might use you as a catalyst to call them up. And so with that, it's like developing a bench. That's a sports theme. I've been a sports guy. It's the whole idea of that you've got your starters. They're out there in the field, they're playing. But yet I believe that the best teams have developed their bench well, because you never know when a player might get traded or get injured or something, and someone has to be called up and fill their spot. They have a thing called next man up or next woman up. And so that's kind of where developing your bench is kind of that whole theme. And also scripture. I just want to share the scripture, not because we have to, because we're in a church, but I love the scriptures. And I think Paul calls us to do this within the scriptures. This comes from Ephesians chapter 4, verses 11 through 16. It says, Paul says, "It was he, God, who gave some to be apostles, some to be prophets, some to be evangelists, and some to be pastors and teachers, to equip God's people." Like, we have to equip God's people for the works of service, so that the body of Christ may be built up, until we all reach unity in faith and in knowledge of the Son of God, and become mature, attaining the whole measure of fullness of Christ. Then we will no longer be infants, tossed back and forth by the waves, and blown here and there by every wind of teaching, and by the cunning and craftiness of men in their deceitful scheming. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will in all things grow up into him who is the head, that is Christ. From him the whole body, joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love, as each part does its work. And so that's my hope. Again, I don't feel like we're solving any problems this morning, but my prayer is that if you guys can at least take one thing, just at least one thing from today, to bring back to the group of people that you're leading, to help develop your bench, to help offload maybe some of the things you're doing, but also to let you guys know that it's part of our evil plan here at Journey, that we want to continue to call people up to new levels of ministry that God might want them to have. So let me pray, and let me pray over Coach O here, and we'll get going. So Heavenly Father, thank you so much for, again, this morning. God, thank you for those of us who are able to make it here safely. And God, I pray that our hearts will be teachable, that our minds will just have such a desire to learn. Father, I pray that your Spirit will just allow us to just at least get one thing from this morning that we can take back and implement, God. I just thank you that you are developing, God, Lord, that you are patient with us. Lord, that you are using situations and circumstances to continue to develop us. And God, I pray that that will be a heartbeat of our church to make sure that we're continuing to develop each other. God, we just look over this time. Be with Rod. Be with what he shares. Thank you that he is here. Thank you that we are blessed to have him speak to us this morning. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, brother. All right. Before you say injured, you forgot cut. It's like there's always that potential. You could be cut it. No, it's not true. Yeah, I love that too, the evil plan. It's interesting for me, before we jump into this, my wife and I, maybe much like you guys, have been in multiple churches. And it's funny how I would categorize us as not church people. Does that sound strange? I left college coaching after 20 years to go run the coaches ministry for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And part of what I'm going to teach you today and we're going to talk about today is my responsibility at one point with them was to train people all around the country how to develop leaders, especially volunteers and those type of things. So this is just some of the things that we taught that worked very well that God gave us, we thought. But going back to we're not church people, it's funny. I've got 3 children. They're all older now. My wife and I have been together about 30 years, but 2 of them are married, and we had our first grandchild a month ago, so that's pretty exciting. But still got 1 in college, so he's still on the payroll. But I just remember, man, hunting churches all the time, right? It's like, well, we'd finally find a good pastor who could preach and teach, and then the childcare would suck. And then we'd finally find a great children's ministry, and it was awesome, and then the pastor wasn't, to our liking up front, right? It was just like, and then, well, they're a seeker church, well, they're a discipleship church, and it's like we could never find the perfect church, right? Which is obviously ridiculous that we would think like that. But when I use the word church, and one of the reasons we attend here, other than it's really close, is we really enjoy this church. And we feel like we're a part of this church. And one of the things I love about this church is it's not too small, right? When I coach down in the South, every once in a while we'd be in these small towns, we'd go to church and there'd be 4 people in the church. And they're like, do you want to lead something? I'm like, dude, we just showed up, It's like, yeah, but, so that would always happen, right? When it's too small. And then if it's too big, it's a production every weekend. And in order to lead a group, you had to go through, the security clearance like I do for the Navy SEAL stuff. It's like, wow, it's crazy. So we find this to be a nice in between, right? And we love the children's programs, and we love the preaching, obviously, and the teaching with Scotty and everybody else. But I love doing things like this. I'm honored to be here. I'm in a lot of secular environments teaching, and so this is wonderful to be able. I'm so honored that Corey asked me and said, "Hey, would you willing to share some things that you've learned?" And so I always start with the 3 Ps. What's the purpose, the process, and the payoff? The purpose of today is just what he said. It's to help you, right, be better at what you do and learn more about leadership. But to me, you know what this is about to me? Same thing it was about when I took over the coaches ministry for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. It's GC squared. And GC squared is the Great Commandment and the Great Commission. I think that's what we're all called to as believers, right? And what's the Great Commandment? Love God and love others. By the way, I'm a coach, so I paraphrase a lot of stuff. But it's basically what? Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love other people. And that's hard enough right there, isn't it? But then the second thing is that we were told was the Great Commandment, right? Oh, and by the way, the Great Commandment was first, and what Jesus said, everything hinges on that. Everything. And then we talked about, the Great Commission, which is what? Go and make disciples of all nations. Now, I'm a discipleship guy, all right? I believe where there is discipleship, there will be evangelism. But if all you have is evangelism and no discipleship, you may not see people grow. And then it's just a lot of people that, it's like that scripture when they said you throw the seed on the parable where he throws a seed and it falls on different things. We don't want to be that. We want to find fertile ground. We want to throw seeds that are going to be taken and grown and nurtured, and God's going to develop those people, right? Makes sense? Now, I don't know about you, but I'm in the same boat as you. I'm still growing. I'm still learning, right? So the purpose of this whole madness, this evil plan that Corey talks about is really, it's not about getting more leaders. It's about growing God's kingdom and fulfilling the Great Commandment, the Great Commission, right? That's the big picture umbrella. Process. What are we going to do this morning? We got you this handout at your table. You're going to want it, all right? Because this is what's going to be my guide, and we're going to go through this. And we're going to do a couple of things for you. Number one, we're going to put back in your head what's a great leader look like. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to give you a process to identify and hopefully select leaders and discern, hey, would this person be a good one or not, right? And then we just kick all the other people to the curb. No, it's truly about, hey, what is the criteria? What's Scripture have to say, right? And then the third thing we're going to do is actually give you a strategic plan to, number one, discern, once you figure out that they're even in the pool, now it's like, okay, well, where are they at? Because I don't know about you, but you can't treat everyone the same. They're all at different stages of development. So one of the things we do as coaches is, if I've got 4 players, well, they're all at different stages of growth. They're not all rock stars yet, and they're not all just new players. But I've got to discern where they're at, and if I'm a good coach and a good developer and a teacher and a mentor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to meet them right where they're at, right? This is like the sticker on the map at the mall. Okay, that's this. Here you are. This is where you are. There's no wrong place to be in the mall. Does everybody understand that? But as leaders, we've got to discern where are they at, and then what's my plan to develop them, right? Because the worst thing you can do is give someone too much too early, right? Or give someone who's really ready too little, and then they get bored and they walk, right? So all these kind of things. So we're going to give you that process, and then the last thing we're going to do in the process is we're going to actually today get some work done, so you don't have to go home and do this. You're going to get some work done, and we're going to ask God to reveal some things to you and see where that goes and help you get maybe a jump start on this whole process. Cool? Last thing, what's the payoff? The payoff is, all right, that you will feel equipped and empowered to at least select, I shouldn't say select, but identify and then hopefully start giving these people some things to do and help them grow and hopefully a leader, right? Now, here's the tough part. None of us are where we need to be yet. So we're not experts, right? That's the good news. The biggest thing I love about Corey, and then we're going to jump into this handout. What I love about Corey is, and write this word down at the top of your page, please. 2 words, have feel. Okay? 2 words, have feel, F-E-E-L. Now, if you look up the word feel in the street dictionary, it means you have awareness. You have situational awareness and great timing. Okay? Have you ever been around someone who has horrible feel? Like they walk in and everybody's praying and they go, hey, how we doing? What's going on? It's like, dude, have some feel, or you come into a funeral and everybody's crying, hey, let's get it rolling. This is a celebration. It's like, yeah, not yet, bro. We got to have some. I love Corey because he has great feel. He's not the pushy ministry guy, right? And by the way, you can maybe write this one down. We teach coaches this. Don't be the oh no coach. That means when you come walking in the room, all the players go, oh no, here he is. Here she comes. Oh no. Don't be the oh no group leader. Okay? Don't be the one that when you walk in the room, they go, oh no, she's here again. They're going to ask me to do something. I just know it, right? I think Corey and a lot of the pastors here have great feel. And we need to have great feel as leaders. You know where great feel comes from? Not just experience, not just maturity, but also from God, right? Jesus had great feel. He knew when to be short with people and direct, and he also knew when to go to their house and have dinner for 4 hours. He had great feel, right? It wasn't always the same response for every single person. And great coaches, great leaders have that, all right? So, thank you for being who you are. And he's a little pushy, but it's good. It's good. All right, let's look at your sheet. The scripture we're going to start with, thank goodness they turned the lights up because I couldn't see anything, is 2 Timothy 2:2. Could someone read that out loud for us, the way it's written right there? Anybody?
And the things that you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, and trust to reliable men and women who will also be qualified to teach others.
Woo! Remember, Paul's talking to Timothy, and he's telling him, hey, bro, you need to find some people that are qualified to do this, right? That's the name of the game. Keep your antennas up. All the stuff you've heard me teach, and now you're teaching it, now keep your antennas up for other people that might have the juice to do it too, right? That's what he's telling them. Keep your, you know what we do as coaches with players? Players are the coaches of tomorrow. The players of today are the coaches of tomorrow. So guess what I do as a coach the whole time I'm coaching them? I wonder he'd be a pretty good coach. She'd be a good coach. And I'd plant that seed, right? And then when they graduate or get hurt or get cut or traded, we would say, hey, you know what? Instead of leaving, why don't you come work with us and be on our staff? We'll train you up. We'll help you. Make sense? So that's what Paul's doing. He's got his own little team, right? And he's wanting to build this team. Now, here's where I want to start with. In this box, it says, who is the person or persons that encouraged and empowered you to be a leader in God's kingdom? Now, even if you're sitting here going, I'm not a leader, you screwed up. You came this morning. You're here. So, right now, here's what I want you to do. Write the name down of someone, and it could be a very small act that they did, but write the name of someone that prompted you to actually take maybe a little more of a leadership role in anything to do with God's kingdom. Okay? Just write that name down right now if you could. And if there's more than one person that encouraged you or challenged you, or maybe empowered you, write that name down too, okay? Give you about 20 seconds to do that. And then we're going to share, by the way. So, hopefully you got a name. All right, who's got somebody? And what I'd like is give me that person's first name, what their relationship to you was, meaning like, hey, I was in their small group, or I just knew them from the past, or whatever. We don't need a dissertation, by the way. But I'd like to get their first name, and then tell me, what did they do that got you to maybe think about leading? Make sense? Okay, who do you got? This is the participatory part, yeah.
His name is Corey. It was really Corey and Scotty, but I felt called, I felt it on my heart that something was bigger that I need to do.
Yeah.
And I remember having a conversation with Corey. He said, well, go home, pray on that, Angela, see where it takes you, which I did. And at the same time of that prayer, Scotty talked about we're called to do, to share our gifts and to do God's work. And I
Sure.
felt like it wasn't, I wasn't doing enough of that.
Yeah.
And so I think through prayer and Scotty's reinforcement,
Yeah.
it just circled right back. And
It's great.
Corey, you gave me the space to explore it further with encouragement. And
That's a good word.
ended up in that space.
Write that on your sheet. He gave me space. That's a good takeaway right there. Isn't it funny? You ever study Blackaby's stuff? He's written some pretty good stuff, Experiencing God. They always say that God speaks to you 5 different ways. The Word, prayer, people, right? Like Corey, and circumstances, and the church, right? And it's like and you kind of had all 4 or 5 going right there. And it's kind of interesting how things happen. Good. Who's somebody else? It's a good one. By the way, that's pass fail. You passed. That was good. It's good. Well, somebody else. Let's go. Yes. Thanks, Mike.
His name's Bill. He was our pastor in Utah.
Okay.
He moved here. And really, it wasn't anything he said or did. It was just the way that he led and the way that he lived by example.
Yeah. Just modeled it for you.
He was a pastor, but he was a small group leader. He was constantly modeling the behavior that he hoped other people would mimic. And he just would encourage you any way he could.
Yeah, one of the things we teach leaders today is model the behavior you want to instill in others. Model the behavior you want to instill in others, And sometimes, I think even as a kid, I remember watching some youth pastors. I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, youth pastors. Sometimes you just, every once in a while, because those, you go through youth pastors like water, right? So every once in a while you get one to come in and boy, they were good, right? And I remember thinking as a kid, that might be fun to do that. All because of how that person modeled and carried themselves, and that's excellent. Good. Let's do one more. Yeah, go ahead.
My guy's name was Ron. He was a senior officer to me at the police department I used to work with, and I was in a pretty dark spot in my life, and this guy, I would go dark on this guy for a year, and he wasn't pushing me, but if I wanted the truth, he would tell me it, and he wouldn't tell me what I wanted to hear, but what I needed to hear. And he was like, "Oh, Josh, you're gonna be in ministry one day." And I was like, "Yeah."
Wow. So we have a term in coaching and leadership we use called speaking greatness. And I'm a person that I believe God has given us all the principles we need to live life. And it's not like came up with something new, and yeah, there are new things, but really, God makes all things new, right? And sometimes you hear something a different way. When we teach coaches and leaders to develop people, we say you need to speak greatness into them, and it's more than just being positive. It's actually seeing something in them and then speaking it into who they can become. You can actually see, this is great, by the way, for parenting. You see your child and they're super funny. Like they just, every once in a while you got a kid, but man, he's just got great comedic timing. It's just natural. He or she is funny, and they're still trying to get better feel of when to use it and when not to, the weapon, right? But as the report cards come home. But you look at that child and go, you know what? I love your humor. I love that God put that humor in you and that comedic timing. And you know what? I bet for the rest of your life, you're going to be able to bring joy to people. Don't know if you'll ever be a comedian, but boy, your ability to bring humor to really de-stress a situation, to make up a word is just excellent, man. Can't wait to see what happens to you. And then you walk away. That's speaking greatness. right? Sometimes, and that's what I think we're hearing with you, you just, every once in a while, just you're dropping a seed, planting a seed here or there, right? It's amazing. Okay, so why did I just do that? That's a really cool ringtone. That is, that's really good. No, you're good. Hey, one time I was at a performance of a guy who's now in jail, so we can't talk about him, a comedian. But we were in Chicago, and in the middle of the auditorium, somebody's phone did that in the front row. And he goes, hey, give me that. And he literally picked it up and says, hey, this is so-and-so. And they go, no, it's not. He goes, yeah, it is. And he talked to the virus. No worries. Why did I just do that exercise? We'll edit that out, by the way. Why did I just do that exercise with you? Yeah, give us some. All right, here's some tools other people use that worked with who? Us. That's important too, because hey, if it worked with me, man, I'm a hard sell. So that's good. Why else did I do it? That's right. Yeah, I mean, God can develop leaders. There is no cookie cutter way to do it. The things I'm going to give you today are principles. It's very important. Is it a systematic approach? Yeah, it is, but the system isn't important. What's important is to have a systematic approach that's flexible to meet your personality and the situations you're in. I don't know if you know this, but when they train special forces people, one of the greatest advantages they have is they don't give them a bunch of rules to follow. They give them a mission and some principles and say, stay within these parameters, but go get it done. And they give them the freedom then to do what they're trained to do, right? And use all their skills. God does the same thing for us. There's no cookie cutter approach. Billy Graham, I remember walking up front in St. Paul, Minnesota to the state fairgrounds when I was 9 years old, right? And that's how Billy did it, And then there are other people that have brought millions of people to Christ that you've never even heard of, or thousands, right? That are just some small town pastor or a small town person that's going around just ministering to people. So you're right. Here's the third reason I did this. I want you to have a vision in your head that this is possible. This is not some impossible task that we're throwing on you. In fact, we're not throwing anything on you. If God's not going before you, I would suggest do not go where God's not working. Do not. Do not push that boulder up the hill. Boy, I just think she'd be great. She's really good. I can feel it. And then all of a sudden, she doesn't have time. And then you keep pushing her and pushing her and pushing her. Pretty soon she goes, what? Man, Rod's the no leader. Right? I don't even want to go to small group now because every time I go there, he asks me to do something. I feel guilty, and this isn't what I wanted. So we don't want to go there. All right. So let's look at identification phase 1 and selection criteria. I want you to look at to the right in this little box, Jesus' model for leadership development. I just happen to believe that this is the process Jesus gave us. A great little book called The Master Plan for Evangelism by Dr. Robert Coleman. Sold billions all over the world. It's a great model of how Jesus did it. By the way, how did Jesus do it? With groups and groups and groups of people, or one at a time? He's one at a time, all right? He started with 12, went deeper with 3, and now we have billions that know who Jesus Christ is, right? So you don't think you got to get your whole group to be leaders. That's not what we're talking about. So interesting enough, Jesus' leadership development started with relationship. How important is it to at least have relationship with people before you ask them to do anything? It's another thing I love about Corey in this church. They're going to build a relationship first, all right? Next thing is there's usually conversion, then there's discipleship training, then people are transformed, meaning you don't live the way you used to live, and now mobilization occurred. Then Jesus sent them out, right, 2 by 2 or whatever, and then the kingdom expanded. I give that to you because don't ever forget, it all starts with what? Relationship, okay? Okay, now look to your left, those words FATC. This is leadership criteria that I was taught before discipling someone. My mentors, my disciplers taught me this. Don't ever disciple someone and really commit to it. Or I shouldn't say don't ever, but be very careful if they don't have all 4 of these qualities, okay? The first quality is faithful. If you're faithful, that means you fully trust God. How many of us fully trust God here? Yeah, don't raise your hand. Don't do it. Lightning bolt, right? We'd love to say we do, but we're humans and we're in the flesh, and there are times we revert to the flesh. So understand when I say, hey, this person is faithful, they fully trust God, they're trying. They're trying. Nobody's perfect, right? But they are legitimately trying to give it up to God, okay? Second letter. Oh, by the way, people that are faithful do not complain out loud about things. Okay? Hey, I believe in this church. If I got a problem, what's the biblical model? Complain out loud and gossip? I should go to the person I have the issue with, talk to them. If that doesn't work, bring someone else. If that doesn't work, go to the leadership and then go there. Okay? A red flag for me, for a future leader, is someone that goes, yeah, you know, this journey thing, they think they got it going on, but geez, could we add another service? I mean, really, can we get the snow plowed on the morning that we got an event? And you start hearing those things, that's not a faithful person. Okay? That's a joy sucker. Okay? Energy vampire, whatever you want to call them. All right? We don't need those type of people in leadership. Okay? A, available. Do they have time? Now, one of the mistakes I made early when I got into ministry and started discipling people and inviting them to my small group for coaches ministry, I remember I'd go to see someone, I'd see Jay, and I'd go to Jay's office and I'd say, hey, I'm doing this thing, and we get excited, and he'd go, I'm coming. I go, yep, it's Monday at 6 a.m. You coming? He goes, I'm coming. 6 a.m. Monday, he doesn't show up. Guess what I do Monday afternoon? I hunt him down like the dog he is. You gave me your word, Jay. What's going on here? I mean, isn't our word our bond? Isn't that what we talk about? And all of a sudden, what do I do to the relationship? Boom, you know, I was so immature, I didn't even ask him why he wasn't there. I just immediately assumed that it wasn't important to him. So we've got to be very careful with this available thing. Sometimes it's seasons of life, right? When our kids were little, we had zero time. I mean, it was like, and then we get to that 10 to 12 range where it's youth sport mania and instruments and concerts and, you know, and ships passing in the night, you know, the minivan goes this way. And just remember, just because they're not available, put the word yet next to it. Because I used to kick people to the curb, and it's like, you know what? They're just not yet. It's just like my good friend Joe Coors, who passed away a while ago. Joe used to call them pre-Christians. They just don't know they're Christians yet. They're going to be. They just don't know it yet. So I love that word yet. So faithful, available. Available means they have time to meet. They have time to be consistently at things and lead. Teachable. Teachable and coachable spirit. They are not know-it-alls. Okay? If they're a know-it-all, we don't want them leading, and neither does God. I mean, I struggle with all this stuff. You know, it's hard to be faithful, available, teachable, right? But we got to find people who have, we call it, again, that white belt spirit, the beginner's belt. I want to learn. I want to learn. I want to learn, okay? Humble, very humble. Very humble people, too, that are teachable. They're usually humble. It's another good word. You know what else is cool about them? When they're teachable, they don't have to lead. They're usually the person that goes, no, Corey, you teach it. You're good enough. You don't need me to do this. That's the person you're looking for, right? A lot of humility. The last letter is courageous. Courageous means we really are looking for people that will implement what they've been taught. They will stand up for what they believe. Doesn't mean they're on a soapbox with a megaphone at CU games. It just means that if someone in the group is well, here's a good example. If someone in the group kind of belittles someone else, they'll have the courage in the middle of that conversation to say, hey, you know, we don't do that here. Now, what were you talking about? That takes courage, right? Now, some of you might be sitting here going, well, yeah, it's easy for you, Rod. You're type A guy. You're loud. What's interesting to me is my wife is part of the Thursday morning Bible study, and she hates leading. I mean, hates it bad. Like, I don't even want to know. I just want to go to the Bible study, learn, and go home. I don't want. Maybe I'll talk to some women. That'd be great. You know, get a little interaction. But I do not want to lead this. And she's the co-leader. But guess what? She doesn't lead. I mean, she is the model it. But here's something that happened the other day. She had missed it for a week or two because we were traveling because of spring training stuff, but she came back and she sat at her table, and a couple of the ladies, they started talking, you know, and sometimes there's people there that have never been to church before, right? And they're new and really are just learning. And somebody came to that table and said, yeah, well, a couple weeks ago, somebody at our table talked about the fact that there's two types of heavens. And there's different levels of heavens, and there's planets, different planets when you die. And my wife, and now, this is the point where a good leader, well, first of all, let's talk about a bad leader. What would a bad leader do? First of all, rip them, all right, and ruin the relationship. Second of all, not do anything about it. Not say anything, not report it to anything, not talk to anybody about it in the leadership here, and just let it go. Because sometimes not doing anything is worse, right? So that takes, so she went to the leader and told her, and that took courage for my wife to do that, right? But that's where she's at now, which is good. But again, not a type A out front, all this kind of stuff. So different strokes, different folks, okay? Check this out. We don't put people in positions of leadership unless all 4 of these qualities are there. Now, stay with me on this. We're not looking for perfect people, all right? We're looking for people that want to be this or are working on this. Here's the mistake I made. Number 1, I kicked people to the curb if they weren't, and I didn't have a yet philosophy. I had a, no, they're not even there yet. They don't get it. All right? That's not right. Second thing I did that was wrong is I thought I could make people fat C. No, I really like her. She's really coming along. I know she's not real teachable, but I'll help her get there. Right? This is like marrying the wrong guy. Okay? I know he's a selfish narcissist, but I'll change him. Okay? Whose job is it to change people? Thank you. It's not ours. Now, don't get a Messiah complex and think you can help everybody and develop everybody and you can do it. You're magic. You're the Wizard of Oz. You can throw some holy water on them and we're good. Hey, just remember, they've all got their own journey. By the way, this is not cutthroat. Oh, they're not fat C. Rod said so. Corey said so. Get them out of here. How hard is it to be fat C? It's very hard. That's why leadership is not for everyone. But then again, it is for anyone. I'll say that again. I said it backwards. Leadership is for everyone, but it's not for anyone. Does that make sense? So anybody can do it, but man, it's got to be a special person. Now, so what did I say? I kicked him to the curb. I tried to make him be fat C, right? So which means I'm pushing the boulder up the hill. Here's the third thing I did. I forgot. If any one of these 4 is missing, their leadership will probably shipwreck. There's a high percentage chance that their leadership will shipwreck. Okay? So don't think that, hey, they got 3 of them. We're good. And then all of a sudden they never show up. They're faithful, they're teachable, they're even courageous. But the problem is they're not showing up. And they keep telling you that you got to lead for them. So ultimately their leadership will shipwreck. Make sense? Okay. So, any questions on the fat C thing? Yes.
So, and I'm not trying to put Corey on the spot.
Which one isn't he? Let's talk about Corey. No, I'm just kidding.
We lead like a young families, small group, and there are not that many people, like 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
But that availability become always a challenge. People will text at 5 o'clock. And
Yes.
Hey, something came up, or my work is running late.
Yeah.
Blah.
Yep.
We still have to host it. Maybe just 2 families show up.
God bless you.
And then Corey keeps sending reminders. Hey, show up the time.
Let him be the bad guy. Absolutely.
It's just the automatic
Yeah.
AI robot he has hired.
Yeah.
But how do we get to these people?
Yeah.
To come to show up.
Yeah. So it's a great question, right? How do we get people to consistently show up? And even though we are talking about leadership selection, I think this is something we can touch on quickly here, and this is a whole nother conversation too. But boy, it's crazy with young families. I mean, it's just chaos, and stuff does come up. I've learned something, and I'm going to tell you this, and hopefully it'll help you. I didn't care how many people showed up here. I don't care. I mean, we'd like to have a good group, but I had a guy tell me a long time ago, he said, Rod, God's called you. It's good. He's happy. Don't get teased by the numbers. He goes, remember, 2 or more are gathered, you're good. If you're faithful with a little, he can trust to be faithful with a lot. So just keep swinging the hammer. Don't try and make them come. Don't try, we could have, beautiful spread here of food, right? Smart. Okay, but I'm telling you, Corey's not, hey, $100 for everybody who shows up. We're not doing that, right? And that's the other thing I like about this church. They understand that too, right? It's not a bait and switch deal. So, man, I'm going to tell you this, and I just so don't be teased by the numbers or discouraged by the numbers. Man, who taught Billy Graham? One cat, right? One guy changed the world for Jesus. So we don't know. So be faithful with a little and don't get discouraged. And plus, let the robot hunt them down. Yeah, that's always nice too, isn't it? But it's a great question. We could talk more about this afterwards, but I want to encourage you with the selection criteria. Don't hang it on your neck like like the gate of heaven. You can't get in unless you're fat C. But just use it as a great guide for yourself, that if somebody's pretty arrogant, and they think they know it all, and like they always finish the sentence for you and give you the answer, or they're always the one in the group that has to talk because they love the sound of their own voice, it's not a teachable person. They're just not there yet. And again, so just to give yourself, you got to have some kind of criteria, okay? All right, let's jump down here to phase 2. Discernment and strategic approach plan. All right, so you found some fat C people. Maybe you just got one. Maybe you just got a couple. All right, now what? Okay, so here's what I do. I'll look at that person, and I'm going to put them into one of 4 categories. Now, there'll probably be a combination of these categories, but this is the easiest way for me to pare this thing down so I know what approach to take with them. Because remember, one approach does not work for everybody. We are human beings, all right? Now, here's how I rank them, and I'm going to start with number 4. Rank's a bad word, by the way. That's not good. The politically correct word is category. Identify. Hey, if they're a level 4 person, potential leader is a level 4, they're fat C. They are low-hanging fruit. Giddy up, get them going. Right? This is you walk in, they come into your small group, and after one meeting, they come up to you afterwards, and you go, this is the greatest I've ever been a part of. I love this. I was trained by the Navigators as a discipler for 20 years. I went to the seminary, and now I've been working in the corporate world, and I've been praying for God to tell me how I can be a part of this church, and if you need any help with this group, just let me know. Okay, that's a 4. Don't go, well, why don't we go build a relationship for 4 months first? Then I'll see if you're fat C. And hey, you do got to test the waters, but and you do got to make sure they're fat C. But hey, that's low-hanging fruit. Let's get moving. Hey, yeah, could you do me a favor and take attendance? That'd be great. Then another week later, you give them another, hey, could you do me a favor? Could you read the scripture and just interpret it for us a little bit? That'd be great. And you're kind of giving them things to do, right? Hey, this is parenting. You see a kid who's got an aptitude for that? Give them some more stuff to do. See how they do. Start what? Growing them. That's a level 4. So here's the plan. By the way, I've written this up there's the identity, and then underneath it's the plan I use. Hey, put them in the game. Get them involved quickly helping. I don't put them in a leadership role. I still keep them under my tutelage, but I'm giving them stuff to do now. All right? Level 3, they're able, but they're not available. They're like fat C, but they don't have the A yet. You see a lot of these. They got it all. But the problem is, because they've got it all, usually people at work want them to, or usually other groups are trying to get at them too. They're pretty good, or they're just working a lot, or they're busy with little kids, or whatever the case is, right? They're just not available. My approach to them is be a noticer, and then I'm going to tell them what you see, and I'm going to start talking about availability. I'm not going to ask them to do anything, because I've already done that, and they're too busy. And a noticer means you see things other people don't see, and you tell them. So I might, what's your first name, Angie? Angie. So I might see her, and I'll go, hey, Angie, I've been leading these groups for a long time, but your ability to really simplify the Word of God for people is pretty impressive, and make it practical. And I just appreciate that. And if you're okay with it, I might ask you during the group when you're here to kind of share your thoughts once in a while of how this applies to this. You okay with that? Guess what I'm doing? I noticed her. I noticed what she's got a gift to do. I know she's probably fat C, but she misses about every other week. She has to travel for her job or whatever it is. But I'm going to speak it into her, just like what happened to you, right? You start hearing God, then all of a sudden stuff starts coming at you. I'm gonna be one of the things that start coming at you and tell you got a good gift from God to use. And as Corey read, what? Some are called to be apostles. That means someone sent with a message. Some are called to be teachers. All right. By the way, and I'm talking availability because I want them to start thinking about making time and prioritizing better. Not better. The way I want them to. All right. Number 2. By the way, did I say there's a really fine line between coaching and manipulation? There is. We don't want you to manipulate this. We want you to let God move. You just kind of loosely. Have you driven these cars now that have the lane stuff where they keep you in the lane? I rented one the other week, and all of a sudden it's like, stay in your lane. I'm like, whoa, and then the wheel jerked over. And then I'm like, oh, I don't have to drive. And then all of a sudden hey, hold the wheel. I'm like, what? So same thing. We need to loosely hold that wheel because God will direct it. You just need to loosely hang on because if you don't hang on, you're not in the game then, okay? You're not really part of the car. Level 2, they're super excited to lead, but there's something that's just not there yet. And so I always say, hey, they're super excited. They're over the top. I got time. I can do this. And it's like, hey, pump your brakes, lady. We're going to be okay. And I don't say that out loud. But that's what I'm thinking, right? They're going, hey, I got to really see if we can, they're just a little too over the top, right? By the way, here's my plan for them. I'm going to affirm them. I'm going to say that's fantastic that you want to lead. I appreciate that. Hey, we need leaders. We have a process here too, though. Okay, and I'd love to have you meet with Corey. And I'd love to have you, that's what I do with those people. And I love to kind of make them jump through some hoops so they can, and talk to guys like Corey and other people so they can start getting some feedback. I don't need to be the one to tell them, you're going too fast, slow down, or Corey's going to cut you. Don't do that, all right? It's not. Hey, this is like grandparenting. And I'm learning how to do the grandparent thing now. You know what is the best part of grandparenting? Well, there's 2 things. One, I'm holding him going, I don't have to pay for this kid, hopefully. And then number 2, as soon as he starts getting fussy, guess what I get to do? I get to hand him back to his mom or his dad. And no offense to Corey, but the leadership here is great at dealing with people that maybe get a little fussy or a little, it's not your job. Not your job. Your job's to help grow people and maybe just help Corey a little bit. Is that fair to say? Okay. By the way, I also love these people that are all excited. I'll go, great, what's your plan? I mean, and in my head, I'm going, if you're all fired up here and you're ready to roll, so what's your plan? You sound like you got this all figured out. And I don't say it like that because presentation is everything. But I'll say, hey, I like your excitement. I'm glad that God's moving in your heart. What's God told you to do? You know, I think that's another thing that Corey's good at in the past. Hey, what's God telling you to do? I'm not going to give them answers. I'm not going to shut them down either because they're on fire. God's moving in them, right? A great thing to do is, hey, what's your plan then? I'd love to hear it. And then do not shoot their plan down. That's not your job. Okay? Your job is to go, oh, that's interesting. And then I love what happened to you. You know what? Give them some what then? Space. And say, hey, why don't you keep praying? Maybe talk to one of the pastors here. See what God tells you. Let this marinate a little bit. I love using the word crock pot, not Instapot. Crock pot. Let that thing simmer for a while. See what God does with it. Cool? Now, the last one is on the far left. And by the way, all 4 of these are good. They're all potentially fat C people, right? These are all good. We're just trying to drill down a little bit further. They're not even aware of the juice they're carrying. They don't, in the Pentecostal world, we'd say they don't even know they're anointed. David, King David, just here, I'll fight that guy. And then all of a sudden he kills him and gets anointed, the whole deal. He still doesn't even know. He's like, I'm just a guy. Some people are like that. You might see greatness in them, and you might see God all over them, and they may have the greatest potential to lead in the whole group, but they're just not there yet in their own head. They're just like, no, I'm just here to learn and grow. That's it. So the plan I do with these guys is I build a relationship with them and I speak greatness into them. I model what the behavior, and then, hey, I might get them involved a little bit once in a while, in the group, just have them read a scripture or do something. And then I will just speak it into them, man. I go, you know what? You've never thought about this, but you seem to have it. And they go, what's it? Let me ask you a question. In third grade, did people follow you around? Could you lead the class? Yeah. Well, I don't think that's left the building. And I don't want you to do anything because I don't want to be the oh no leader, right? But I think God's doing something in you, and I just think you should pay attention to it. See what he's doing. Is that a cool way to handle those people? Right? Just kind of remember, it's parenting, right? We're just trying to get them to see maybe what they don't see. Okay. Any questions on these? Biggest danger in this whole sheet is you start thinking it's a cookie cutter approach. Or you start thinking, they're not fat C, they're out. They're category 2, so I got to do this. I've taught this for years. The best people at this are the ones that just slow it down, see the big picture, aren't in a hurry to get anybody going. I love using this term that we used to teach quarterbacks the last minute of the game when we were behind by 6 points. Hey, you're running the 1-minute offense. We do need to score. But guess what? Don't be in a hurry. Have a sense of urgency, but don't be in a hurry. Because if you're in a hurry, you'll make mistakes, or worse, you'll push God out. Well, Corey said we got to get leaders. We got to get leaders. That's not what Corey's saying. It's not what the church is saying. The church is saying, yes, we want to grow. We want leaders to be developed, but we also don't want to be in a hurry, right? And make, I don't want to say make mistakes because God's got it all, but we don't want to push God out by being in a hurry and just all of a sudden we grab the wheel, right? Do me a favor. Now you know all this, right? I wrote this down. What are some things you hate about church leaders or small group leaders that always try and get people to get involved more and lead more? What are some things you hate how they do that? How they try and get people, and I'm talking about, this is the worst, not we don't ever do this here, by the way. We're talking about other churches. But, what are some things in the past? Because it's really important to not just talk about what to do right. You also got to do the anti. What's it look bad? What's a bad look? Like, what are some things you've experienced yourself maybe that you're like, yeah, that was a bad way to do it? What do you got?
I was leading a youth group when we were living in Miami. We were a satellite campus, so our main campus received full support. I lived in Miami. So about a quarter of the youth group were my kids. The youth pastor was 20, so he was another kid.
Yeah.
And so there was an expectation. We're all those churches in a box, right? We set up every week here now that they had a certain image, first impressions type thing.
Yeah.
Image. And so I go and say, that's great. I need X amount of money to accomplish that because we take it in and out of the box. And
Right.
about 3 months, it's all destroyed, or it gets in a different box.
Uh-huh.
The budget runs.
Yeah.
So do it, but we won't give you the resources.
So here's something that's real important too, and I keep saying I love that. What I like about this church is they will, if something's going on and you need some help or you need something, a resource or anything, they do a nice job of coming alongside you and supporting you too. The worst thing you can do is put that leader out there on an island with no resources, right? Hey, we want you to develop this island, irrigate it, farming, the whole deal, and here's a pitchfork. Let me know how that goes. And by the way, I'll be back in 6 months, right? I mean, just leaving people on their own, which we don't do that here, but that's I hate that when people do that, right? Yeah, you lead this group and we'll get back to you. Good. What's another thing you hate about people's approach to you about how they want you to lead something? What are some of the worst things people can do? Yeah. There you go. Just, hey, every time I see them, they're going to ask me to do something. One of the things we had a problem with at FCA years ago was, as a coach, my view of the FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes representatives, every time I saw them, they were going to ask me to do something. Every time. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to see you because you're going to ask me to do something, and I'm busy, and I feel guilty then, and I don't like feeling guilty. So guess what? Not right now, right? So you can't be pushy. How about the guilt person? You had this guy or gal? I think God's really telling you need to lead a group. In fact, I've talked to Corey, and we've prayed about it, and God's told us you need to first. God told me is kind of a red flag, right? Because if I heard his voice audibly, we wouldn't have to have this conversation. But I think what's interesting is that I'm going to play the guilt card on you. You know, oh, we really need you to lead. You know, we really don't have anybody, and that's not good either. Okay. All right. How long could we go on all the bad things? Long time. So just keep that in your mind. Don't be the small, I shouldn't say small, just group leader. One more thing I want to give you. Phase 3, and then we're going to have some question and answer time here. And Corey will be a part of that too. Phase 3 is, all right, that's great, Rod. Now I got all this criteria for kind of identifying and discerning and, this kind of stuff. Phase 3, hearing from God and implementing your plan. Okay, what if all of a sudden, I see people, and one thing on the 4 stages, can you be like a 2-3? Sure. Nobody's exactly a 4, nobody's exactly a 1, and there's no bad category there. But like you might see a 1-2, or a 2-3, that's just to help you understand, hey, what strategic attack plan should I take? Right? That's all. That's all it is. Did I say attack? That's funny. Nice, Rod. All right. I just get a little excited. So here's what we're going to do right now. We're going to start this process for you, and the worst thing we can do is leave God out of it. Agreed? So here's what I want you to do right now. We're going to take about a minute to 2 minutes, and I want you to be quiet, and I want you to pray and ask God to reveal some names to you right now of people that you may know. Hey, they could be in your small group, they could not be. Okay, they could be in your group, they could not be. They might just be someone you know that's not in your group, but boy, they have potential. And then write their name. I gave you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I give you 6 boxes there. It'd be great if you find at least one. All right? So you're going to take a minute right now and go ahead and pray, and then just write names down. Ask God to reveal names to you right now. And if he gives you a name of someone you never met in your life, that's a whole different conversation. Right now, though, go ahead and pray. And hey, if you don't hear anything, that's okay. But at least what? You've asked. And now you're in a conversation with God about, hey, you might get in your car as you leave here and Jimmy's the guy. And then just remember to put that in. Make sense? Go ahead and take a minute right now and pray. And I'll close us in prayer, by the way. And as you get those names, feel free to write them down. Well, Father, we will pray more later, and maybe even in the car or tonight or wherever, but we will never cease to pray and never cease to ask you to reveal to us people that you want us to build relationships with for your purpose, not for ours, but for yours. Father, I continue to ask that you bless these people, and as we talk more about now what to do with these names, Father, help us to remember that it's not our job to do this, it's yours. We are simply conduits for you. And Lord, you don't even need us, but we are privileged and honored to even be here this morning to think that we could actually help you. So we ask humbly that you would reveal names to us, and we also ask humbly that we would be your servants and people would see in us you, and they wouldn't see us as the oh no leader or the pushy person, but they would see us as a loving, caring person. And Lord, give us discernment of when to pull people and when not to. Thank you for this time in Jesus' name. Everybody said? All right, now here's what you're going to do with these names next. Number 2, write down their leadership stage, all right? So look at those 4 stages right now, and in that next box, just put a 1, 2, 3, or 4 next to their name. Okay, so you got, like if you wrote down my name in the first box, Rod, then you go to the next box that says leadership stage 1 through 4, you're going to put, well, Rod's like a 3, 4. Okay, now, and then the final thing you're going to do is you're going to, and I haven't taught you this yet, but here's the last thing I do. Once I know, kind of discern what category they're in, now I have to prioritize. A, I need to talk to them immediately. Like it's low-hanging fruit. Go talk to them now. Don't wait. B, I'm not sure. Like I don't know if they'd be interested or not. A, they're all in. They would want me to talk to them about leadership, possibly leading. B, they're kind of on the fence. You're not really sure where they're at. Fair? And then C, they don't want to talk to you. Even though you might see leadership qualities in them, they may not be at that stage of availability maybe, right? They may not have that schedule. So put their name down, try and categorize them, kind of where are they at, 2, 3, 4, and then put an A, B, C about. Now, if you have more than one name here, this is why the A, B, C is important. Who should you go see? The A's. It's not rocket science. What should you do with the B's and the C's? Pray like crazy. That's all. Just pray like crazy. Say, all right, God, I feel like Stephanie is a 3, but there's something that I just don't feel like, God, you got to show me. Don't let me get ahead of you, God. By the way, write that on the top of your paper. Don't get ahead of God and don't play God. I don't like saying don't, but have to on this one, right? We're not God. There is a God and he's not you. I love that. And remember, we can't play God. Oh no, I can make her a leader. I can. I think God wants me to talk. Just really, really be sure, okay? Corey, anything you want to add before we go to the Q&A here? All right, we've got about 10 minutes here for Q&A, and anything is up for grabs now. By the way, did you get, Corey wanted you to get 1 or 2 nuggets. Did you get something that'll help you? Okay, questions or clarification? Go ahead.
Alongside discipling?
Amen. Yeah. Did you hear the question? So if they're a 1, is it maybe should I just start maybe walking through life with them more? Maybe even discipling them or now. And discipleship's a whole other conversation, but just walking alongside a 1 or a 2 is a great thing to do. I mean, it's great to walk with all of them, right? But especially a 1 or a 2, because usually those 1s are curious. They're pretty curious people. And I don't know if you remember the 4 knuckles. Of kind of your walk with Christ. It's like you get curious, then you ask Jesus into your heart, then you make him Lord of your life, meaning you lay down the sword and you let him run your life, and then you give it away and you go make disciples. Which of those knuckles do you think are the toughest? The last 2. Yeah, it's so hard to lay our lives down, and then it's so hard to also develop and give back, right? But yeah, 1s and 2s are usually in that first couple of knuckles there too. So yeah, that's a great point. Any thought?
Well, I think that's part of the fun. I mean, you guys are heading up our starting point class for the semester, and so you got some young people in their faith. But I think, another phrase I like to use is being able to pull out what God has put in them. Mm-hmm. Is that there's a lot of things, level 1, they have no idea. I mean, a lot of the spiritual giftings they have no concept of that, but yet God has already placed that in them. Is that you get the opportunity to kind of do that. And so I think discipleship is always key before inviting them into leadership too, especially when it comes to our church.
Did you hear that? So growth and discipleship and maturing them is very important before leadership. That's a great point. Good. No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Here's the fun thing though too, like when I think of your group with some of those young, parts like, hey, do you want to, you can be in charge of making sure we have desserts, every time or whatever. And so even though as in terms of their faith, they might not be there, you're still giving them something to hang on to.
That's good. Another question. Listen, we're going to stay here till you ask some questions. Hey, what did we talk about? That your what, where? I love that. Because he's got a plan. You've got a plan when you're going to meet with somebody. You always think about it.
I've got to write this down sometimes because I say it and I forget to write it down. But when you have like you say you have an A4 or an L4 or whatever, an A4, someone to kind of get right there. Is what's the who, the what, the when, and the where. In other words, when are we going to meet? Where are we going to meet? And what am I going to be talking about? Kind of having that game plan so that when you do see somebody say that has low hanging fruit or whatever, it's like when I do get together with them, I'm going to call them up for coffee and, hey, I want to get together. Hey, do you have Tuesday afternoon open at 3 p.m. at Starbucks? And I just want to speak some greatness into you or something like that, And so I think to me it's just having that game plan, because you can have those people you've identified those people, but then that's that one next part is I obviously have the who, but where's the where, the when, and the what that you want to talk about?
One thing to consider too, when we haven't really talked about this, but say you do see someone who's fat C and they're like an A4 or something like that. Okay, now what? Well, go have coffee, or say, hey, can you hang around after the meeting next time? Don't ambush them, by the way. I mean, I hate to be ambushed. We live in a world now where, I'm working with a guy right now, and he goes, hey, can we change the call to Monday? And I go, yeah, how about Monday at 11? And he, texts me back, I'll let you know Monday morning. I go, dude, that ain't gonna work. That's just not. So we love not to be ambushed, right? So to plan out a meeting is really important. And then the other thing is the art and the science of this. In coaching, we talk a lot about in leadership, the art and the science. Hey, the science are they fat C? Is God telling you to talk to them? And where do they rank, right? Or what's their category? Well, that's the science. That's the easy part, right? The art of it is what we're talking about today. We're giving you some simple criteria that just helps, separate the crowd, right? But then it's like, okay, the art of the approach, the art of walking with them, the art, this is marriage. It's my wife always says, it's not what I say, it's how I say it. So that's the art, right? That's the art. Are you asking God to help you with the art? Because each person's different. And so for me, I've got to pray too. Before I have that one-on-one meeting, I'm going to pray, God, give me some discernment and wisdom on the approach and where I need to go throughout this whole meeting. Pray constantly. Because, again, it's not your job. Good. Another question you got?
They're all well educated.
Yeah. I've got one for you guys. What's the hardest part of this? Of what? Not this sheet. What's the hardest part of going? I mean, you came here this morning. That's a tough step. But then you're like, okay, are they asking me to, I got to develop leaders? I mean, what is the hardest part of this whole discussion, do you think, to you guys? Feeling adequate? Good. Yeah, am I qualified to even do this, right? Because then I pull out the scripture, right? Better make sure you're freaking qualified. It's like, man, good. What else is hard about this?
Reading the people in their different stages, and
Yeah,
I assume some people are going to go up, and sometimes they retract, and
you bet.
as we all do in our walk.
Yeah. You know what, too, is we all have biases. I like to be treated a certain way. That may not be the same for Corey. But because I like to be treated like that, I just think everybody should be treated like that. It's like, well, I love it when you just tell me the truth. Tell me right up front, right in my face. It's like, okay, I like doing that to other people, but I don't like having it done to me. But I think that's the art, too, that we're talking about. Am I qualified enough to really discern and good? Hey, here's a simple question. What scares you to death about this? Yeah.
My group's a little different, because of availability.
It's good.
We meet for a dinner a month, we do an activity once a month. And I feel like what scares me is, am I spending enough time with these people to even understand what categories they might even be in?
Yeah, get a good sample size, right? Yeah.
And-
Got a
and-
good sample size, but sample size shifts, list is 35 at one time, I have 30 at one dinner, 12 at another, so I think I need to do something more around consistency and time, or, I don't know, am I missing out on helping them, see what God has?
Yeah. And let me speak
No,
to
go
that,
ahead.
I think sometimes, sometimes we'll have phrase, Andy Stanley said this, and this could apply to different situations, but do for one that you wish you could do for 1,000. For me, this is mine. It's like, I'm an inviter, I'm a recruiter, I'm a networker. I've pulled the Guzjelskis into our small group that we're starting here pretty soon. But I want to invite 20 families. That's my, But sometimes that can't always happen. But can I do for one that I want to do for 1,000? And so in your group of 33, that you're 35 that you have, Angela, and part of the reason why you have that many is one, because you're scratching an itch, but two, because of the type of person that you are, that you attract those people. But maybe it's just, God, give me 2 or 3. Because you're thinking 33, but it's just, hey, 2 or 3. You think about Jesus. all the people that tried to follow him, but yeah, he even selected 12 and then 3. Is that sometimes, I mean, and was Jesus being exclusive? Well, there was a strategy behind that too, and many years later, we wouldn't say, well, that was a bad strategy. We'd say that was a phenomenal strategy. And so maybe for you, it's just praying. What are 3 of those ladies who I see that are fat C that I can begin to take next steps with? But who knows? Because maybe if you call them up, rising tides raise all ships, right? And so all of a sudden, maybe you start to see them empowering and raising some of the other people up in the group that you never knew just because you invested in 3.
This is interesting. So we don't honor your time, but this is a speaker tactic, a trainer tactic, but I think it works when we start talking about the art. One of the things I'll do when I speak, and I did it about a month ago, is I was in a secular environment and I was speaking to hundreds of people, and I said, and we were talking about there's 3 things that elite leaders think about in their own life to impact the world. And I said, and in my talk, I said, I really think there's 4. And then I just keep teaching. And every once in a while I go, but I think there's 4. I said, here's number 3. And then at the end of it, I said, now here's the deal. You've heard me say, I think there's 4. You heard me say it 4 times. If you want to know what number 4 is, our time is done here. But you come over there and I'll be sitting there and you can ask me anything you want and I'll tell you. And I will throw some bait out there to see who bites. And that's not a negative thing. This isn't a manipulative thing. By the way, my number 4 was you got to do what God values. It was a secular environment, so I couldn't say that. That would dishonor the people who hired me. But I said, hey, over here, we'll talk about that. And then a couple people are like, oh, I thought so. But it's interesting. The people that came up to me, they're hungry. They're hungry, and guess what they want? I like this. Give me more of that. And so I think there's nothing wrong also with saying, hey, we're going to have a little breakfast thing or a coffee thing at Starbucks, real informal. If anybody wants to come, we're just going to hang out, or we're going to have a play group with the kids. If you come and hang out or whatever at the beach or wherever we are, yeah, nice to say beach, right? You can tell I've been in Florida. But I think it's good to do those type of things too, to see if there's anybody that bites, because sometimes there's some people that they do want more and you don't even know it. Okay, we need to honor your time here. We're done, but Corey's going to be available, in the future. So if you have any questions or anything like that, I'm hit and miss when you try and find me. But hey, really appreciate you guys taking time this morning. I mean, we hope it's been beneficial for you. Hey, don't feel like you have to go develop leaders. You don't. We just wanted to equip you and empower you that, hey, if you feel like you can, go ahead. And if you don't, that's okay too. But just remember, even one can make a huge difference in God's kingdom.